Hello everyone, and welcome to this video, Some Frontier video. My name is Jay Wakefield, and today I would like to talk to you about the continuing saga of Westminster and their sanctions regime and the DWP. Now, I'm sorry, I know that this is a political video, and I know a lot of you are going to derive absolutely no enjoyment from it. But I do promise that there will be computer-related videos coming up, so please kind of stay tuned for them. However, this is a video that I've wanted to do because certainly in the last week or so, or in the last couple of weeks, a lot has been going on. Now, first of all, for those of you who haven't heard, there's been a lot of talks about, well, there's actually, the DWP, what happened is, in an ever increasingly desperate attempt to, validate their sanctions regime, which is cruel and punitive and nothing more, they actually started putting out leaflets. They spent the taxpayers' money on this as well, started putting out leaflets, saying, supposedly quoting from people, with photographs saying, their story, and how being sanctioned has actually helped them get into work and, move forward with their lives. However, it was found rather quickly that the images used were stock images, and the quotes weren't real. So the government actually had to recall all of the leaflets and put out, kind of quotes, from made-up people again, but this time, instead of using stock images, using, kind of the silhouette pictures that you see. Now, so that is actually the government blatantly lying, and it's not kind of just like, tin hatters kind of saying, oh yeah, the government are lying to us again. No. This is actually, kind of proof beyond reasonable doubt. I don't want to say all reasonable doubt because, I don't want to make a big thing out of this in the comments, but, certainly it does kind of prove that, they are lying to us, and they will continue to do so for their own ends. The sanctions regime, in all reality, has actually been really very unsuccessful. People aren't becoming more ready for work because of these sanctions. What's actually happening, if anything, is that they're becoming less ready for work. There's been people who've been unable to eat for months, due to the fact that they were sanctioned. They actually, there was, let me tell you a wee story actually. It was told by Mary Black. Now, I think she used to work for a charity. I think it was kind of some sort of food bank. Please forgive me if I've got it all wrong here, but she used to work in a food bank, and she saw this gentleman who I think was quite ill, and he used to have to go to the food bank for his food, and one day he went in and just, kind of in passing conversation, he says, oh, I've got an appointment at the job centre. I'm really, really nervous because I'm actually genuinely scared that they're going to sanction me. So, and she was saying, he was saying that he was not going to be able to afford to come to the food bank. He, kind of needed his bus fare to get there. He wasn't going to be able to afford to kind of come there because he was going to need his bus fare for the job centre appointment. So, he actually, 1 week didn't go to the food bank so that he could use his bus fare. Unfortunately, because he'd not been eating, I think he actually fainted and therefore missed his job centre appointment. And Mary Black didn't see him for about a month or two afterwards. And she asked him, look, how's this gone? And he just broke down in tears and was like, oh, it was awful. I fainted, so, I've been sanctioned, so therefore I couldn't afford my bus fare to come up to the food bank. And to get the food. It was awful. And this is exactly the sort of thing that's happening. And it's going to be happening a lot more. Iain Duncan Smith, he actually turned round and said, work sets you free. Work sets you free. Now, where might that be written? Oh yeah, it's written obviously in a more kind of German way than Iain Duncan Smith said it, but the same statement, but in German, is written on the at the top of the gates. Above the gates to Auschwitz concentration camp. Work sets you free. So this is the kind of mind we're dealing with here. Kind of a Nazi wannabe. In fact, he's doing pretty good. So these sanctions leaflets are basically just an insult. And the fact that they're using our money to kind of pay for this propaganda, is actually just astounding. And you know what? People will believe it as well. Because they'll believe, the Department of Work and Pensions, they will have got these quotes. This will all be true. And that belief will be backed up by, when you switch on the TV or, open your newspaper and you see so many scroungers, so many people fit to work. I can't remember which paper it was. I think... I think it might have been the Daily Mail. If not, it will have been some, kind of similar unionist kind of right-wing rag. Coming out with the headline, 75% of disability claimants are in fact fit to work, or something ridiculous like that. Well, if it's disability living allowance, then yeah, okay, they might be fit to work, but that's not a problem, because disability living allowance is not an out-of-work benefit. I mean, obviously you can claim it if you're unemployed, but it's not something that is claimed in place of having a job. It's meant to supplement your, extra expenses caused by disabilities, of which there are many. There's also, and talking of the DWP, I think the biggest thing that's happened this week is the number of people who've been found, who've died after being, shortly after being found fit for work. And that number is, there's a few numbers. There's, but I mean, it's 4,000, in total, kind of being found dead shortly after being declared fit for work. And that's, that really is just absolutely appalling. But obviously the DWP have pulled a fast one, because, as they rightly say, the numbers don't say that they died as a direct result of the workfare regime. But the fact that they died so shortly after being found fit to work does still raise a lot of questions. And I think that we need another Freedom of Information request asking, about the cause of these people's deaths. But we'll need to kind of find the best way to actually phrase it so that, we can have, as near as damn it, irrevocable proof of whether the workfare assessments do cause, are actually the cause of these deaths. I mean, it certainly would seem that they are. Having, read people's stories and, kind of seeing how, people are treated, in these assessments. But I mean, it's just, it's basically the government are doing this. They're basically saying, oh well, you're lying. You're lying. It's it's not it's not oh we'll take your doctor's word for it that you have these illnesses, disabilities that kind of stop you from being able to work. No, you have to go through a separate medical assessment. Traditionally it's been carried out by Atos, the French IT company. Now though, it's going to be carried out by some people called Maximus. And Maximus have been in massive trouble in the States. So, this government, they really don't care. They know what they're doing. Anyone who thinks that, this is a small price to pay, for getting the fraudulent people out, is wrong. Anyone who thinks that the government doesn't actually realise, that, they're killing people who have got disabilities or who are ill, they know exactly what they're doing. There's just been too much in the way of kind of proof, if you see what I mean, to kind of not believe that the government are actively killing people who are ill or who have disabilities. The fact that they're not even willing to believe your own GP who knows you, who's gone to university for several years to train, who knows about medical conditions. Now the government are rounding on people with mental health conditions. Saying, okay, the GP doesn't know about those. Well, maybe that's true. But surely, people with known registered kind of mental health conditions who've been able to get, employment support allowance based on, their mental health condition may have a support network. And someone, they'll have had doctors doing assessments on them. And that should be enough proof. So with all of this kind of going on, the stats having been published and the and the finding out of the DWP's lies on those leaflets, you'd think that the DWP might think to taking a more kind of I'm just trying to think the word. You might think that they would take kind of a less risky course of action. Oh no. Oh hell no. Iain Duncan Smith has actually announced yet more cuts to benefits for people with disabilities. And this is apparently going to be, based on mental health, and he's saying, oh, going back to work is good for you. If only it were so. But people aren't going back to work, aren't they? They're going to the job centres. They're being put through the Job Seekers Allowance Programme, which actually makes people more ill. I know this because I actually became a lot more ill after having been on Job Seekers. The stress of every 2 weeks having to sign on. Is this going to be enough? Is that going to be enough? What new demands are going to be put on me? When you're being sanctioned for looking at the same jobs over and over again because there's not any new ones. When you're being sanctioned because you had to go to a job interview and therefore miss your job centre appointment. You're being sanctioned for the bus being late. And I know it gets worse. It gets worse. A guy who went for a medical assessment, for ESA, was sanctioned because he had a heart attack while at the assessment. So rather than them thinking, oh well, this is quite obviously proof that he does need the benefit because we've just kind of seen him have a heart attack, no, He was punished for having a heart attack. And I'm sorry, I know I'm shouting, but this is just so far beyond the joke now. You know, there's people think Iain Duncan Smith's lost it. He should be forced to resign. But I guarantee you, he'll end up with a peerage. He'll be Lord Duncan Smith soon. You know, you just watch it, because that's what's going to happen. The UK know how cruel they are being, and they don't care. It's actually their plan to be this cruel. How can it not be? You know, when attention has been drawn time and again to the number of people who have died, you know, due to these work capability assessments and what have you. Oh yeah, I know what I just said. I honestly, you know, I'm not actually having to be part of any kind of, you know, this channel is my own. You know, this is not me speaking out on behalf of anyone. And, you know, these are my own beliefs. I'm not saying that's fact. But I honestly do believe that the work capability assessments have played a massive part in the deaths of these people who did not need to die. You know, and there's always the same people. Oh, but I know this person down the road that manages to defraud the system. We all know the person down the road. We all know that person down the road. Let me tell you though, it's 0.5% of the claims. I mean, while it would be nice to have 0.0000, absolute 0% of people frauding the system, the government are punishing the actual, genuinely needing people. Now, let's just, for one moment, talk about people with disabilities who can get into work, because yes, they do exist. You know, I'm not saying that everyone with disabilities needs to not work, because you know what, a lot of us actually want to. You know, I tried running my own business back in 2012, 2013. Unfortunately, I had to give it up due to my depression. You know, and I'd been on job seekers, I'd tried applying for jobs, but, you know, the stress of it caused me more anxiety than I needed. And it actually kind of drove me away from being able to work, rather than driving me towards it. So, those who can work then. Funny story, a lot of them who can work actually do want to work. You know? Except for the government, immediately after the election result, immediately after they found out that they'd won, said that they're going to be cutting access to work. The benefit that helps people with disabilities be able to put resources in place so that they're able to work. Now, this is not a benefit that gets paid cash in hand to the person with disabilities who's claiming it. This benefit is instead paid directly to those who need to be paid for having provided the service. So, let's say, for example, I needed... well, actually, no. When I was working... when I was in my last job before I had the business, you know, I used to work in a supermarket. Now, you know, they got me a magnifying glass, a video magnifier. It was a HumanWare Pocket View, like the one that I actually own. Now, this HumanWare Pocket View was given to me through Access to Work, but it wasn't mine to keep. The company I was working for, they had to actually order it in on a 30-day invoice, and then the job centre basically raised the money. You know, basically they will have raised a cheque or whatever they do, you know, for the amount that the device cost, and sent it straight to, I think it was Sight and Sound who sold the device. And then, you know, I got the device for as long as I was in work. And when, you know, I finished my job, I actually handed the device back. That's what Access to Work does. So, you know, just in case there's any kind of misconstrued things like, oh yeah, you get more benefits, what are you going to do? You're going to spend all that on video games or what have you? No. That is exactly not what happens. But the thing is, access to work is being cut. Now, without that, a lot of people with disabilities are not actually going to be able to work. And a lot less are going to be able to work if their Motability cards keep getting taken from them, because apparently they don't meet the criteria for PIP that would actually get them the highest mobility rate and therefore access to a Motability card. Personal independence payment is not about helping people with disabilities be able to claim the benefits that they're actually entitled to. Personal independence payment is about saving money, and the government have actually admitted that. They they have actually categorically said that, all they want to be able to do with it is to save money. Now, I'm sure you could save money with disability living allowance, but personal independence payment is just cruel and vindictive. And that's what a lot of these new rules and regs are that the government are putting in place. Just very vindictive. It is quite obvious that the Westminster government do not like people with disabilities. And I just think that that's really quite sick. It's not our fault that we've got multiple disabilities. Throughout the 2000s, I tried looking for a part-time job to supplement my studies. I got absolutely nowhere. And certainly when I lived down in England, I honestly believed that you could not live as an adult down in England if you have disabilities. I mean, let's think about it. You don't have a driver's license. Now, if you can see properly, it's probably a good idea. A lot of people, they may get driver's licenses even if they don't ever plan to kind of own a car. Well, even if they don't plan to own a car in the, near future. A lot of people will have driver's licenses. I'm visually impaired. I'm not even entitled to get one. Not even a provisional to use as ID. In England, there are no other forms of identification that would actually kind of prove who you are that are credit card sized. The only other one that you can use is your passport, and that's a big, massive thing. And then you're going to get it lost. Whereas if it's credit card sized, it can be tucked away in your wallet. At least in Scotland, we have Young Scot cards, which actually do that and actually do work as ID. But again, it's at the manager's discretion. And, if I hear passport or driving licence, once again, I'd love to kind of knock the person responsible for saying it to the ground, because that's just, completely thoughtless. A lot of people, you need to be able to have it, to be able to live a reasonably good life, you need to have a job. And a lot of people with disabilities just don't even get a look in. Now, I know that there's some companies that will guarantee you an interview. Yeah, that's very nice and all that. They might actually see someone with disabilities that totally wows them. But you have to be much better than everyone else. I mean that. You have to literally be able to wow them in a way that no one else would. I mean, I know that kind of stands to reason for any interview. But you really have to go above and beyond, because a lot of companies don't want to take us on. They think it's going to cost them money. And, this is something else I want to come on to in a minute, but the guaranteed interviews, it's almost as though we both know that it's a waste of time. The interviewer knows, and the more cynical, jaded interviewee, the applicant, also knows that it's going to be a waste of time. We still try as hard as we can, kind of dress to look the part, make sure that we're all kind of clean and tidy, done research into the company, put together a good CV, done some interview practice, kind of prepared some answers to questions, kind of common questions. Give us an example where you've worked as part of a team, all that sort of stuff. But we all know it's just a waste of time. that they're only doing it because they feel they have to. Sympathy points. You see, that way they can't say, well, we don't discriminate because we have the guaranteed interview policy. That's a guaranteed interview policy, guys. That's not a guaranteed employment policy. And nor should there be one, actually, for people with disabilities. It shouldn't be guaranteed employment, because that's just going to... That is, you know, it's like if you take us on, even though there is someone genuinely superior to us, not because of disability, but, you know, just better at the job, then, you know, that wouldn't be fair either. I completely understand that, you know, and I completely agree with it. But, you know, if we're... You know, if we are superior to the other applicant, but we're not taken on because the other applicant doesn't have a disability, there really is no way to kind of, you know, prove that that's happening. I mean, they could say, oh, well, the next up, you know, this other applicant has more experience or more specific experience. And it's not like I've not went out there and got experience. I mean, I've done a lot of things in my past. I did all the extracurricular activities I could do at school because I knew that, well, I was told that they would count towards something. It wasn't until I actually got into the world of work when I actually realised that they don't count towards diddly squat. Maybe look good on a UCAS application, but that's about it. I ran some societies at university. Well, I didn't run them, but I actually was a student rep, I was a student convener, I was the Disabled Students Officer for NUS Scotland at one time. Again, counts for nothing. Doesn't count towards anything if an employer is that way inclined. So the latest thing that the government have done then, you know, talking about there's too many people, you know, parked on ESA and we need to force these people back into work. Okay then. So how are you going to do that? Because a lot of us are actually looking for jobs. What you're doing is you're pointing the finger of blame squarely at those with disabilities who are trying and failing to find work, okay? That is what they are doing. Not you, the viewers, and just like the government. That's what they're doing. They are also not targeting employers to say, look, you know, take on people with disabilities, you know, because you've got a whole untapped workforce there, you know, someone who you could actually take on and who might actually, you know, do your company good. Now, there are people with disabilities employed, but the statistics show that actually the odds are stacked against us. Only 33% of people, 34%, as of 2009, 2010, only 34% of people with disabilities are in employment. And the reason I have those figures to hand is because my ex-girlfriend did her dissertation on that, actually. So I knew those figures. Similar period, only 20% of people on the autistic spectrum are employed. Statistically speaking, it's going to take an absolute miracle for me to get a job. I'm literally going to need to know someone or call in favours. Probably from the mob. But, and then I'll be forever in debt to the mob, and that's never good, is it? So when I should be actually resting up for my first day at work, there I am entertaining Big Fat Polly. But they don't talk to employers. And another thing that employers say, oh, we could never get insurance for you. Now, okay, I understand. There are some jobs that people with disabilities just can't do and should not be expected to be taken on for. You know, for example, I would never take on a job driving a heavy goods vehicle or a taxi or even a forklift because I don't see well enough to have a driver's license. I don't expect to be taking on jobs in the cleaning industry because, you know, it's again, I always miss spots. It's, you know, I kind of need help, you know, when cleaning around here. I wouldn't expect someone who is, I don't know, just, yeah. I mean, there's lots of jobs that people with disabilities can't do because of the very nature of their disabilities. Some people don't accept that. You know, and they think they should be kind of handed the job anyway. Would be nice. But for those jobs that we can do, you know, and you'll get some wiseacre. I mean, you know, I worked in a supermarket, like I said, and, you know, it's just like, oh, you can't possibly do this because you could never get insured for this. I wasn't even allowed to touch the roll cages because I was not insured to do so. Now, insurance companies seem to want to charge a premium for people with disabilities. That needs to change. Okay, there's some things that we won't be able to do. Again, I understand that, and there's some things that probably would put us more at risk. But you can't just kind of go, you know, you can't just kind of go insuring people with disabilities, you know, and asking for more to do that, and therefore spoon-feeding employers an excuse not to take it on. And the government needs to send a message to employers that taking on people with disabilities is not going to cost more. You know, because access to work will help us pay for the extra things that we need. And they need to not cut access to work. Oh, and Philip Davis in 2011, people with disabilities should work for less than the minimum wage because of the need to prove themselves. This long silence is because I'm trying to figure out what I can say without landing myself in legal trouble. All I can think of is get the hell out. Get the hell out of the British Isles. Just go. You know? I hear, you know, go and live in an active volcano or something. Just go. I certainly would not want to be paid less because I'm not worth less. There's just so much going on. Okay, and that Philip Davis thing, yes, it was 2011, I am aware of that. But I certainly believe that the government are kind of working against us. And like I said, I just don't like it. You know, we're constantly being punished for things that we can't necessarily help. The UK government talk about how there's all these jobs. Did you know that workfare was counted as jobs? Even sanctions are counted as jobs because they're not actually registering as, you know, kind of unemployed. But they still have to keep doing what they're doing. Did you know that in Denmark, the local population there enjoys on average a 33-hour work week? UK job seekers have to work more than that just to be able to claim their £56 or £72 a week. And that's not a wage. That's a bunch of scraps. Anyway, I think that's enough of that said. Like I said, I understand that some of you won't have liked this video, and I'm very sorry about this. But I will do my best to try and get some regular content back up on Wednesday. So with that said, I hope you have at least tried to enjoy this video. If you have, please feel free to subscribe, to like us on Facebook, and to follow me on Twitter. URLs will of course follow. Until then, thank you for watching this video, and please join me for the next one.